We are no longer
July
flashing.
6/28. Wait a couple of minutes, I guess. Oh, well, I got my glasses this time. This is, must be getting older. This is a little bitty. Not that I'm criticizing, I can still see it.
I think we're on.
We are, that's 6/28.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yep. It's done according to my watch.
Oh. I was
That's
looking
what
at that
my
one.
phone says,
Yep, so.
6:28.
Oh.
These numbers make my head hurt when you switch it from 1794 to 1974. It's like, I had to really look at that to see what was changed. That's the levy rate, so.
Flip those numbers around.
Okay.
Let me see about a watch clock.
6:30.
There we go. So, everyone please rise if you're able and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Andrew Benson.
Here.
Ruth Groff.
Here.
Bronwyn Losi. Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here, okay, so, let's get into the 2024 budget discussion. Do you want for me to go over some highlights first, or do you just want to jump in with your questions? It doesn't matter to me either way. What are you comfortable with?
I always think a highlight thing, since I just got this 5 minutes ago, the highlight would help me.
So let's set some ground rules here, which is nothing has to be done tonight as far as making this into the preliminary. Chances are this will be just a rough draft to go over to let you think about some stuff and let you include stuff, or not include stuff depending on how you feel. My understanding is that at our next board meeting, which will be the third Wednesday in October, is when this will become the preliminary, and then we'll set the public hearing. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just get, so there's no sense of urgency to try to get this done tonight because it wouldn't be fair. Go ahead.
What's the process between now and the 20th, or the third Wednesday, of actually making changes? How do those happen? Who's going to be the final?
Well, since it's not the preliminary, what it is that this is where you share emails back and forth and you propose certain things, and then we can have that whole discussion at the end. And this is where we'll have our, two people from the office crunch numbers and see what the impacts are.
Right, we're going to do that in advance, because I think we'll be there all night if I'm saying I want to change this to this and this line, and you're trying to figure out how that affects the bottom line, and then we have to, so we're going to do that over the next few weeks. We'll write in and say, I like this number, I think this number ought to change, people will comment on it, and then you're going to decide whether to push that into the budget, or?
Well, you can go by consensus, but the basic thing is that you should have that discussion in front of everybody with a, going through line by line if we have to, because you got the chicken and the egg. What if 2 people don't want it, 3 people do, you put it in, and then here's the impact. Well, no, here's the impact, here's the impact. This is why you can have all your changes that you propose on there, and then we'll go through them again and see what the impacts are. In the meantime, we can do scenarios ahead of time. So it isn't like we have to wait. I mean, quite frankly, when we were plugging in numbers, we just went like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We can probably give you a good idea, depending on the, what it is you want to update. We could probably give you a fairly good idea of what the impacts might be.
so just theoretically, if I pick a random line and say, let's double it, you can tell me what that would do to the tax rate easily, quickly? Or would that take more
Take
calculation?
a few seconds, yeah.
Few seconds, but it's not,
But we can,
yeah, Yeah, I'm just trying to understand how the process is. I'm not proposing that at the moment. I just want to get how that would work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this budget highlights, everyone has this in front of you. I would stress the part in yellow, and I would stress the part in yellow ad nauseum if possible. That it is important to know that this process will only work out if budget modifications are limited to actual unexpected but generally necessary expenses as they should be. And quite frankly, the way that this budget is set up, there are very tight windows, which means if somebody wants something increased, they may have to decrease another line. We have found out in the past, through no one's specific fault, that the budget mods have taken off, and consequently, in my opinion, we've taken a step backwards, and this is why this is almost an austerity budget. And we've also met with Pat, and he's going to work closely with Jen, and Mikey has already been working closely with Jen and Mary Ellen to make sure that everything is tracked thoroughly, quickly, and efficiently, so that if there are trends, they can be addressed. So, we can go through everything if we want to, which will take some time, but the first one is, without reading up all the lines, there's a change from 66,560 to 72,000. That is an increase in the step for two people. There is, I'm just paraphrasing here, the next one is a change from 88,400 to 100,000. That is due to one of the laborers, or one of the workers' wages increase, as well as the cost of seasonal laborers. So there's different numbers in there. And once again, this is not something that Pat and John Zepko, both who are not on salary, are not here tonight. I think they're enjoying time with their family, but if you have questions, you can get more details with them. Number 3, original budget requests include 2 mowers and a truck. The truck was $100,000, and the 2 mowers were $33,000 each. These were all removed from the budget presented on 9/20. Upon talking to Pat, the 2 mowers were put back in, but the truck was not. The rationale behind that is that by keeping these mowers every 2 years, it's under warranty, and he feels that's the best deal possible. He unfortunately exhibited 1 year where a mower blew out the engine, and they were stuck for a while, and people in Lansing have certain expectations of keeping their ball fields groomed and their parks. Any questions, you can also talk to Pat about that. Original budget requests include a new RTV and a tractor. Both were removed from the present budget on 9/20. The RTV cost $18,000 total, has been added back in the budget.
What's an RTV?
I was going to ask that too.
So the go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's like an ATV, only like bigger.
Okay,
You see them at the parks, and they're hauling around trash cans and doing other stuff.
Yeah,
It's like a 4-wheeler on steroids,
okay.
yeah.
basically what it is.
It's their tractor, essentially, for pulling things and
No,
carrying
it's
things?
more like to transfer yourself around, like back and forth across the ball
Okay.
field, across the park, to carry.
And equipment and everything else, so it's quite handy down there. So it says, looks like the RTV cost was put back in the budget, 3,000 was put into that line, 71,400. 15,000 will come out from the park equipment reserve. This 15,000 will need to be replaced over the next couple of budget cycles. We all understand that when you use reserves, that was the intent of also putting them back in under a reasonable period of time. Number 5, original budget requests were for $30,000 to resurface the basketball court. This was removed. It has also been added back in. The thing behind that is it's best to do a little now, like you do with roads, as opposed to do a lot later, and cost a lot more. Technology support personal services, Pat Terrell, was increased from $12,000 to $18,000. In my opinion, this is essential because technology will become a vital part, if not already, of our town services. And we have used consultants in the past, and they have not had the immediate response that Pat has. Now, in the future, maybe you'll need a full-time IT person. I'll give you a little history as far as Bolton Point went. It took them a year to find somebody.
There's been talk at the county PCOG meetings of towns getting together and jointly hiring somebody, so, you know, they're half-time at 2 different towns or something like that, so that you don't have to take the IT person on all at once, but you can give them a full-time job.
Okay. I have a certain view about that, of who gets it first, and when do they get it,
That
and
has
if
to
they
be
need
worked
it,
out, yeah.
right, and if they need it right away. One thing I have noticed, and lots of people want to tell me otherwise, is that usually if there is a problem, he's right on it. And when we've had, in the past, that was always a concern, trying to get somebody, okay?
Oh, I understand. I also understand Pat is stretched many ways, and if we can unstretch him a little bit, that would be good for his health and such.
Moving on. Demolition of unsafe building, the 91,000 was an estimate, has been lowered to 51,000. That's receiving a quote to demolish the building. I think that was from Mikey, so thank you.
That's good news. I like that line.
It is good news, and we could use a little bit more. The next line increased from 200,000 to 204,500 to account for the 8% increase in premium cost. That's from the consortium. Next one, number 9, lowered from 48,000 to 26,000 to reflect the sale of 2 mowers and 1 RTV. So that's going back in. You'll find that under scrap, I think is what the line is, if I'm not mistaken. Which is usually where we sell the equipment once we buy new stuff. Number 10, lowered back 275,000 after speaking with Tompkins County.
What is that line?
Lowered back,
That's the mortgage tax.
thank you.
It's what?
Mortgage tax.
Lowered
Oh.
back, so that was the mortgage tax. It was at 250, we bumped it up, and now we lowered it back to 275
Okay.
as an estimated revenue stream. It'll be interesting to find out what the sales of houses are, the impact of the higher interest rates.
Mhm.
Number 11, there was a correction of the budget presented at 9 last week. This has changed from 2,500 to 20,500 to 20,000. That looks like from sewer district number 1. Is that right? SS1?
Yes.
Okay. And SS3, this is a correction of the budget presented last week. This has changed from 3,000 to 300. Okay. Those are expenses, not revenues, correct?
Correct.
Highlights, tax rate increase of 9.89% from $1.794 to $1.9714. Tax levy increases from $428,931, increase of $428,931.34 from $1,446,270.38 to $1,875,201.72.
That increase is from this year, or?
That is the assessments.
That's
Yeah,
the new
that's-
assessment.
Yeah, that's, okay,
Mhm.
That's the levy.
Levy, sorry.
yep. But they increased from this year to
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, that's the levy. No, it's not the assessments.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sales tax allocation. We talked about before about protecting our sales tax because we cannot raise sales tax. We're now in an envious position that we have quite a lot of excess sales tax, almost at the point that it is alarming, so we need to reduce that. And we can do that by reallocating the sales tax revenue as it comes in. Right now, the sales tax revenue is, let me get this right, 29% goes to the B fund and 71% goes to the DB fund. By changing the allocation, that would mean that 29% to the B fund and 71 that was before. The 2024 tender budget suggests 11% to the A fund, 17% to the B fund, 7% to the DA fund, and 65% to the DB fund. This is an effort to correct both the fund balance excesses and deficiencies in these funds. This is designed to increase the fund balance at the end of the year, which once again, we refer to the yellow line, which means that it is critical that people stay, if possible. I understand if you get the storm from H, when you have to be out there a lot and burn through stuff, but this is where somebody else may have to be sacrificed, and they need to stay within their budgets. Overall wages were increased by 4%. That's the tentative, it hasn't been agreed to, aligning with the highway agreement of 2024 through 2026, and $2 an hour increase included for full-time highway employees who have been employed for greater than 20 years.
When do we plan to finalize that agreement? Do you have
As fast as we can.
Yeah.
It is, when that negotiations were, the people that were negotiating it were comfortable with it. And so it's just a matter of them taking it back to their associates.
Okay,
And it's always been my practice, even though you don't have to, is whatever that the association gets, that we can give it to the people who are in the non-association. Remaining ARPA, page 2, remaining ARPA funds will be used to offset salt costs in the DA fund. Approximately $158,000 were left in the ARPA funds. Adding employee assistance program through EIS to offer employees. This program has lower than market premiums through the Tompkins Health Consortium. You have this sheet in front of you. And I will segue over for a minute, and I'm going to need the board's approval. If you want to just talk about this briefly, I'm going to need the board's approval tonight if I can say yes to this. Is that the right thing?
That's I'm sorry, my computer's wanting to restart for some
Yes.
reason. For the EAP?
Yes, I'm sorry for the
Yeah, so the EAP program, it's an employee assistance program that is offered through the consortium. We don't pay the consortium, which is where we have our health insurance. It's a program that will, you have a flyer there, it has hundreds and hundreds of topics for employee mental health, for legal advice, for all kinds of things. It's free to the, for the employees. For our cost, it's gonna be about $20 a month, I'm sorry, $20 a year per employee that's covered. So our benefit coverage is for full-time employees, it's about 32 employees, so it'll cost us about $700 a year max. It could be lower if more people in the consortium join. By adding this, there's absolutely no impact to the budget, because there's already enough room in what we've allocated for the insurance, the health insurance, medical insurance, that this would be covered. So I'm just asking that we go ahead and add that program.
so how many employees do we have that would be covered?
Well, we'd be covering about 32 employees, probably.
Okay, so about
say
$600.
Yeah, and it could be less than that, that's the max it could be, because if there's, for instance, if there was, I think if at least 500, they cover at least 500 employees, then it lowers it to like $17, and so
Okay, so
it'll
we're
only
talking
get lower.
$600-700 where we're talking about, that's just what I wanted to
That's
understand.
what
Yeah.
she said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, so, good, I've used these programs in the past, and they are, if you let your employees know about them, they get used a lot. And this one is great because it has, if you, there's 3 face-to-face counseling sessions per issue. So if they have an issue with, whatever, a relationship, they can go for 3 sessions. If they then have another issue on another topic, they can go again for 3 sessions, live. But they can have as many, there's no limit to videos, chats, things like that. There's no limit to that. So they can always, like, telehealth for whenever they need it, for as often as they need it.
They also provide wills and other legal
They
things too,
help
which
you,
is great. Yep.
exactly, with the, initial will writing, they help you with some legal advice, they'll help you find childcare, they will, there's literally hundreds of topics that they can help with, so, yeah.
So how's the board feel about this?
I think it sounds good. Have you talked with the employees about this at all? If you
Not
got-
yet, I wanted to let you folks know about it first. I confirmed the pricing and that sort of thing with the consortium before I did this. And then at the October meeting, I'll have more information for you, and we'll probably pass a resolution or whatever we need to add this as a benefit package as of 1/1.
Yeah. I would have to say, for somebody who's utilized these programs with previous employees, they are great.
They are great.
Great to have.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, which hopefully it won't be that, is that if we find this doesn't really get used, we can always opt out.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You can always opt out.
I'm not advocating that, I'm simply saying that.
Yep.
You can try it for a year, it sounds like the expenses, and quite frankly, after post-COVID, I think a lot of these services could be used by people if they're not already.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that we can get utilization reports and things like that. We won't know, it is confidential, so I won't know who went for what topic.
Good.
But I can get a utilization report, and in my experience, if you have even a third of your employees, it's worth it. Honestly, if you have one employee that's going
It's
through a
worth
hard
it.
time, it's worth it. Because
I
they will
agree.
do it sometimes for free, but they won't necessarily go see somebody that's not, there's a copay or they have to call, so.
So in terms of the reports, you'll be able to say that 13 employees utilized it 56 times? type-
Yeah, something like that,
Something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah, yeah. And the nice thing is too, it's not, when we sign up as however many employees we have that are gonna be on it as January 1st. And we don't have to give them another census for a year. So people can come on and off of it with no extra cost.
This is like
So-
disability insurance where at the end of the year, they look back and see how many people you actually had on and adjust you at the end?
They don't adjust anything. There won't be
Oh.
any extra cost. We can add,
We could
within
double it.
reason. Like if you double your employees, the following year, they're gonna capture that when you re-up.
Mhm.
So they don't like re-bill us if we,
Okay.
add people. So, yeah.
So we just pay for a certain number of people, they don't have to know who they are, though.
Well, they will.
They do.
Okay.
They'll be sent, not social security numbers or anything like that. They will be sent, names, email addresses, possibly phone numbers,
Okay.
and, maybe data hire, but that might be it. They won't ask for more than that.
Yeah, because I was just thinking if we pay up, in January for 32 people, but then we hire some more
Yep,
in July, those new hires will still be eligible for it.
yes,
Okay.
they'll still be eligible for it, and I can just send them that new
Just
information,
update,
say, hey,
okay.
we've added these employees, and they,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Move on. Okay. Next item on page 2, there was an increase of assessment valuation of $126.5 million, and a decrease in lieu of assessment of $615,950. Lansing market pilot ended in 2023. Tax cap levy is over the amount.
Can we go back up for a second?
Yeah.
So when you say Lansing market pilot ended, that means they went to full assessment? Or how's that, what happened?
Yeah, well, they went to full assessment of an empty building.
I understand, but they went,
Yeah, it's kind of like when the power plant went from a full assessment down to $2 million from $60 million.
yeah, but they always stayed on a pilot through that whole change,
Not
whereas
to
you're
the
saying,
end. Not that when they died at the end, they transferred over just for basically there's two parcels, one for $1.5 million assessed, one for $2 million. That was on when they finally found out nothing was going to happen. Then they said, okay, now it's time to end the pilot and go to assess value of the property. And this is the same thing that happened. You have an
Okay.
empty building.
Mhm. Thank you.
Tax cap levy is over the amount of $327,009. It was $401,379. Okay, any questions so far?
I just have a question. On this one right here, the tax cap levy's over the amount allowed. That would be for 2024, right?
Yep.
So what's the 2023? That's what it was for 2023?
Right, that's when you override the tax cap of 2%.
Right, so the tax levy for 2024 is, the tax cap levy is a lower amount than it was for 2023?
Over the amount allowed.
Oh, over, okay, gotcha, sorry.
There's a formula that they use, it's roughly 2%, but there's other stuff that goes into it, not just, I don't think it's just a clear 2% of whatever that used for that indicator. Because when I was working with Charmaine, there's a bit of a formula, right?
Yes, there is, yeah. It's not just the 2%, they also calculate, based on your pilots, there's a couple other things that go on. They give you an allowable growth factor, and it's this long equation that we put all of our information into. About.
So did we go over in 2023? I don't believe we did.
Yes, we did.
We
Yeah,
did, okay.
Yeah, there's one, well, there's been some years, more than one, I believe, that we did.
Mhm.
And the one that strikes me, the one that we did, was when it was all the stormwater bounds
Right.
for the one drainage district. It was like 29 drainage districts, and they had to go up. Now, I think I had this conversation before, I said, why is it fair that that should go calculate into the whole thing when it is a district? Why would you do it for a water district or a sewer district, not just this district, but such as the world we live in?
Okay, so last year we went over by 400,000, this year we're going over by 300,000 on this budget as proposed. What does that mean when we go over the tax levy? Is there any?
It just gets reported to the state. The important thing is that you pass a resolution or local law to override the tax cap, which you've done.
Mhm.
If you didn't do that, there would be implications for going over.
Before, there were some negative things if you went over under any circumstances. That's no longer the case?
Not that I have seen or heard of.
I'm not aware of negative.
Yeah.
I would argue you're doing the due diligence because with the tax cap, in my opinion, it is one size fits all.
Mhm.
And one size doesn't fit all. There are some municipalities that still have natural gas.
Mhm.
Now, why we don't have energy equity tax on them, if you want to talk about equity, we are basically in a moratorium and we're stuck, and yet other places seem to have hookups on natural gas in Tompkins County. I find it rather baffling. Since equity is the buzzword, I would love to have energy equity. Maybe you, next board that steps forward, will look into energy equity. Why are we handicapped if they're still hooking up? But anyways, that's a different story for another day, but that is one example of where you have the inequity of each municipality has to deal with their own uniqueness. General A fund. So the town board contractual went up 50% because to allow for all board members to attend the annual Associated Town Conference, there will be at least 2, maybe 3.
Minimally 2, yes.
Minimally 2 or 3, minimally 2. And if Ruth wins, there'll be 3. That will, I think, is it mandatory that they go to that?
There'll be 3 no matter what, 3
Yeah.
new members,
I always,
because there'll be, right, at least, there'll be 1 supervisor and 2
Right,
board members.
yeah, no, you're right, there'll be three
So
new
3 new.
members either way, or
Yeah.
if Ruth goes, then there'll be 3 new.
There'll be 3
council
new
people.
town board
Right.
members, yeah. So there's a lot, I figured that Joe and Ruth usually like to go, and probably the new people would or should go, so we just allowed for everybody.
right.
How about trainings? Because we're going to have at least 2 people who are going to need training in January.
Mhm.
Moving on, number 2, informational aid salary at supervisor's office was removed. And Jen will now receive a new title, and her salary will be moved to the A 1220.140. Number 3, A 1220.400, supervisor's office contractual amount doubled to reflect the actual expenditures in the previous 3 years due to increased software licensing costs. There's that technology again. This will need to be reviewed and additional costs added if the town decides to change software companies for payroll and accounting. The town is currently using Williamson Law Book Company and has outgrown this software. I will leave that discussion to, and whoever else wants to add information.
Unfortunately, we don't have any quotes yet, so we're working on getting those. It takes them a while, I think, to figure it out, so.
Item 4, A 1410.130, informational aid in the clerk's office will be moved to a full-time position. The part-time clerk wages in the clerk's office has been left in for Shelby Rose. My understanding is she is quite essential during tax season.
Correct. But I do have one thing to add, like, she's gonna be a full-time person, but she's not gonna be full-time in my office.
Not Shelby, but something else we're talking about.
Right, the information aide in the clerk's office is moving to a full-time position, but it's not full-time in my office. It won't all be charged to my office, part of it will be charged to the court office. She's gonna help them 1 day a week.
So 25%.
So I don't know how you do all that, but
Is she will she be 36 and a half?
Yeah, she will be a full-time person with one day.
So
of-
36 and a half and not 40, which means it won't be 20%, it'll be a little bit less than 20%. All her salary will go to the clerk, or will go to the court.
Right, right. 8 hours a week will go to the court, and the other hours of the week will go to whatever my budget line is.
Talking to Judge Howell, and as far as her working with the full-time court clerk, they are ecstatic about her work ethic.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She is.
Yeah, she really is.
So quick question on the courts, that we get income from the courts as part of the fees and stuff. How much of the court cost does that cover, roughly? 10%, 50%? Yeah, just a rough ballpark.
Look,
That,
Don't know.
it's interesting because the fees that go in, they go to Albany, then they get sent back.
I know,
right?
we get a.
And I don't know that specific amount, but it would probably, it should be in the revenue stream under court coming back in, under, I believe, fees or penalties. And part of that also is bail, when, not bail. when
Bail's
they-
gone.
Yes, exactly. But it used to be in the past, it used to be bail that people just wouldn't come in, then you got some of that money back. But it should be under the line of the court as a revenue stream and an estimate.
I'm not seeing anything for court under our revenue.
The A is an A690, right?
The
That-
actual revenue goes into a 2610.
2610, thank you.
No, is it lumped
Oh,
in
it
with
is, I
others?
see there, okay,
Right,
sorry.
So what page is that? 7?
Probably page 5 or
Yeah, yeah.
5.
We did mine.
So it's fine, forfeitures, fines, or forfeiture bail, I mean, that's perhaps an outdated, but it shows you they're looking to be, what, 40,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an approximate of what we're expecting, and how much does the court cost us roughly in total?
Well, that's another line under expenses,
Mhm.
and that would be,
Under
this is where this 5-year sheet comes in. That is where, let's see where that would be.
It's on the first page.
The court cost is right on that first page. Let's see.
Yeah, justices total.
Is it on the first page?
Look under
Under
justices.
justices, right under the town board.
Yeah, so you're talking about 130,000-ish.
There you go, yep, 135.
So it's covering somewhere between a third and a quarter, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So here's a little history. At one time, they had 2 full-time clerks over there and 2 full-time salaries or benefits.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind when you're allowed to be speaking here, how much is actually going to go over there, what was there before. They, and talking to Judge Howell, they may be in a position soon, or not, to look for a second full-time clerk over there,
Mhm.
as they did in the past, because they seem to be very busy. That I'll leave up to his call to see when he needs that, as far as that goes. Right now, we seem to get the best bang for our buck over there, in my opinion, because you have one person doing it, and that one person is fine doing it.
Mhm.
So those conversations have all been made, and that's where we sit this year. Now, maybe next year, the year after, that may have to change. But we've had one before, when one left to work for the county, when Penny went to work for the county, we had one before. We had Charmaine go over there for a while and help also with the backlog when one other person left. And so there's a lot of history there as far as where you need it and where you don't need it. But I think since COVID's over and things are heating up again, at least in this area, at least for this court, that may be a conversation for next year or the year after. But you can do what you want. I say this, I'm not suing you, but because you two will be here in one form or another. You may want to ask his input on that.
Mhm.
And he'll be very candid with you as far as if he does need it or not.
Yeah, just giving me an idea of how much we're subsidizing the court system here, and that's an important thing to have in the back of my mind.
Any other questions before I move on? Okay. Number 5, attorney and engineering fees were reviewed by both Guy Crowe and Dave Herrick, and these figures represent the recommendations. A1440.409 is a new code for Ludlow Road. Number 6, A1460.400, records management contractual is a new code at the clerk's office request. They have a project they would like to complete this year.
I was curious, does that cover that codification fee cost?
No.
Remember we talked about that?
Has nothing to do with it.
Not that?
This is just for records management.
Okay. Is that included in here, though? We talked about adding something for those fees that we had to pay for the.
My understanding is that was put in the technology budget, the
Oh, okay.
codification stuff.
That seems
But
like-
not this project. This project has a separate
This project has a new line
118.
to get records management under control, and I'm not sure we should say complete this year, at least get started this year.
Codifications under technology?
That was my understanding, that's where it's always been paid out of, right, Mary Ellen?
You said you gave those numbers to Pat, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
It just seems like an odd category to put it under.
Well,
I
it's
don't
tech,
disagree.
It is technology, though.
Everything
Yeah.
in the office now is technology, though.
Well, I mean, it's a broad statement, I understand that, but there are certain ones, especially codification. Also, it's very heavy in the code officer, right, in the planner's office, too.
right, but that was, back when CJ was here, something was said about that, and it was decided that that shouldn't be put under her line item, it definitely should go to the technology.
So one question I would ask to maybe do research here is, since we split up costs with different departments using different things, right? Equipment, for instance, could be under, part of underwater, could be under sewer, could be under, right, DB or DA. If the codification part of it, this technology part of it, some of those is only exclusive to code in the planning office, perhaps it could come out of the B fund, not the A fund, as long as we know what that percent is.
Well, we pass a new zoning law. Who deals with codification? How does that work?
What do you mean, who deals with
Who
it?
actually sends it off to the company and says?
Jessie sends it in,
So she does all of that work?
all of it,
So it
yeah.
sounds like it should be under your office, so you can put it in your line when stuff happens.
Her sale, she does so many things that just go under town clerk. Like, it doesn't, hers, I think, is now split 50-50 between water and town clerk, and she does so many other things that, I mean, I don't know how you keep track of. Okay, today she worked an hour on this, or, that zoning codification, though, she did spend hours and hours on.
I understand, but she's also the one that's signing off saying, I'm paying this bill. So it should be coming out of one of the clerk's lines, which we should move money from this technology line to the clerk's line to cover it. I'm not trying to take your money. I'm just saying, if you guys are signing for it as saying, we're paying for this, it should be in your department to do it.
Well, the point I'm trying to make, though, is that if this is a benefit to that office, and that office, I say that office, not derogatory, but that office meaning the planning and code office, which is paid for by the fund, okay, outside the village. And the A fund is within the village. That money to pay for that expense,
Should be in the B fund, I agree.
and I would like to do some research on that also, considering the fact that, once again, and I'll premise this, I have to wait for the right time to do this, because this is a lot of information, but we're looking into, once again, getting finer and finer where the expenses are and who pays for them, okay? We're doing the same thing right now, and you guys can do a timeline anytime you want. We're looking, for instance, right now, to go back, can I mention this now? Go back to the year, for the first year on insurance. If somebody's working on road maintenance, that insurance for that type of task should come out of the DB fund and not the DA fund or not the A fund, because it came from that. Same thing with water. You work on a water line, right? You get paid out of the water. Okay, all those taxes and everything else, all the rest of that stuff, where does that come out of? It should come out of that fund and not the A fund. This is a pivot as we're going through this, and this is something we had talked about before, But Jen has brought it to this attention because she has another municipality that actually does this. Now, keep in mind, when we're talking, this amount which is significant when we have very low fund balances, but keep in mind when you're doing a $15 million bond, and keep in mind when you're doing a $900,000 payment every year that the taxpayers have to come up with, how much of that will come out of water, how much of that will come out of sewer, how much of that will come out of some other fund other than the A fund on that. And if you have the same ratio, which we can defend, and both of you have done this research, we can defend this, okay, with the comptroller's blessing, then that is where that amount should come from. So that $900,000 payment, maybe the interest, I'm just planting seeds here, okay? You run the show the way you guys want to. When you get elected, that's up to you. That $900,000 payment, at least now, that's what the estimate is for the first year, maybe some of that comes out of the interest, okay? Maybe some of that comes out of a different department, so you lower the impact to the taxpayers of the $900,000. Maybe you drop it to $750. I don't know the numbers, I don't know what the ratio is. But the water fund is extremely healthy, and you'll see the DB and the B fund are very healthy, as opposed, and you have one of these sheets you can look at later, it'll show you where we are with these things, and look it over. And I also recommend before you ask a lot of questions, look this stuff over. It'll show
Did we
you.
get one of those?
No, we didn't.
You should have. Do they have one of these?
I don't think so.
No, I did not get one of those.
Well, when we take a little 5-minute break, we'll print them off so we
Okay,
have it before
thank
we
you.
discuss it. So I want you to be aware of it. Like I said, this is stuff we do every day, so I don't expect you all of a sudden to absorb it, even though you guys do a good job. But we can do a timeout, and we can talk about this, through emails or whatever.
Well, it seems to me, I mean, clearly codification of our zoning stuff is a B fund. It's not affecting the village. I don't see how you could argue that it does affect the village since they have their own zoning. That should definitely come from the B fund. But it seems to me that if Debbie's office is doing the work and signing off on the vouchers, it needs to be in a line that her office controls so that it can sign off saying, I'm paying this bill out of this. Because your office is doing all the work and you're signing off on the voucher saying this vendor ought to be
Well,
paid.
I wouldn't say we're doing all the work, we're sending it in.
That's the work of-
Code or zoner person is doing
No, that's
all the
billed-
work.
No, that's billed separately. The work you're doing is saying, we have new zoning code, we need this codified, you send it off to whoever it is, they send it back to you, you say, we need to pay this person, which is the key. If you folks are saying we need to pay them, then your office needs to have the line to pay them with.
Well, and also be able to track it like they do with Jessie when she does the water bills.
Yeah.
That gets paid out of the water fund. But having said all that, I think you have grasped this concept. The other piece of the puzzle is legally, can you do it with these other things? And that's where the research comes in, like they have done with this other stuff. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. What I'm saying is that the next step to do all this stuff is can we do this legally through the blessing of either the comptroller and the associated towns, or whatever thing we need to have documented. Okay, and then implement a plan to do that, just like Mikey does when they plow county roads. They get reimbursed for that effort. This is not a unique situation or a brand new situation, but for us, I think we now have enough workforce in place that we can actually get a little deeper into this, where before we may not have that, because Charmaine was doing an excellent job, and she was doing a job with 2 people. And I would never throw any stones against her, because quite frankly, she gave me 6 years when she said, I'll give you 4, and that's it. And I thought she did an excellent job, but now you have people that have a different skill set, that a much deeper skill set in some areas, not all, not everything, because they're all good at what they do, but now you can maybe micromanage a little bit more and pull a little more detail to it.
This is a program that you really brought in when you took over as supervisor, to actually have each taxing district pay for, all the benefits and stuff of the work they get. And I think that's an excellent thing that you brought on. And I think we should continue to look at how to do that, because we want the taxpayers who are benefiting from a event to be the ones who pay for it. And if it's going to a sewer district, then it's a small group of taxpayers that need to pay for the benefit, as opposed to all of Lansing paying for that benefit. And I think you're absolutely right in going in that direction as far as you can.
Well, I appreciate that you want to continue that, because sometimes that doesn't happen when you have a change of leadership. But on the other hand, the only thing I ask you is let them or somebody do the research so you can defend it.
Absolutely, we need to do it properly, and I appreciate you guys are taking the time to make sure that it's all done properly. But I think this is absolutely the right direction to go, and I'm glad you started that process. And we'll continue, I intend to continue it.
Well, good, I got two, I guess you just need one more, and you'll be all set. Okay.
You just don't know who that one more is.
Yeah, we'll find out. So if we're done with that, we'll go on to number 7. A 1610.400, technology contractual, budget increase significantly based on previous year's expenditures and quotes from vendors in 2024.
I have, okay, so you're saying, I got a quote that the ongoing fees for that are only going to be about 27,000 for the, well, Patrick gave me this morning.
Is
There was
that
a
for
list of all
ABS?
those. It was like, I'm sorry?
Just for the
That,
software.
yeah, that's just for the software.
Okay,
That's not for all the other work that they do.
okay,
Yeah,
all right, because that's quite a jump from previous years. so-
but that's what we've been spending.
Okay, all right.
If I can make reference to that line, it's on the first page of your big sheet.
Which line is it?
Yes, that's right, on that 5-year spreadsheet.
Which line?
First page,
Yep,
it's like the third or second line from the bottom, A 1610.400, technology contractual. Just follow your finger across there, 2,000, jump, an actual for 2021 was 3772 to 103,397.
Right.
So there was a bump. You saw how it was budgeted in 2023 of 24,000, and the actual was a little bit higher than that, obviously. And spent through this year, it's at 47. And you see where amount remaining, okay, that's another budget mod, because I think that was not a realistic estimate at the time, though that was the best that they could do. So now you see where it's at 70,000. I think that's much more realistic. And once again, since we're not doing budget mods, hopefully, it's best to have that number right up front.
Yep.
so
I
that
agree.
2023 modified budget changed last month or so to get rid of that negative number?
It gets rid of the negative number that was, yeah, but it only brought it to 0. We'll be doing the budget mod to bring him to the end of the year in October. We'll bring that to
So
you.
there's another projection we hope to get in front of, what, 40,000?
I think that's what it was.
Between
yeah.
30 and 40,000.
I think he sent an email earlier today.
That needs to be done before he spends it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for reference, just so far for ABS Solutions, this year through August has been $33,351.
Okay.
So that's, and that's only through August.
What are the general expenses that are coming from this?
A lot of software costs, a lot of the agreements that, for them to come and, service, fix things, whatever, that sort of thing. You kind of pay for the number of hours ahead of time, and then it's, then when we go through that, they bill us again for another agreement.
It's a retainer type.
Like $1,000 at a time, yeah.
So that bump in 2022, that was when we implemented the new website, right?
We went to the cloud.
Okay.
We went to the new website. There was a lot that happened that year.
Yeah, okay.
We like to think of this as we joined the 21st century.
Yeah.
And there's a price for admission.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it.
And, to kind of piggyback on that, some of the contractual costs for different departments will go up because there's software costs for being on the cloud, like Williamson on the cloud is more expensive.
Right,
So that's why a lot of the added costs.
okay, that makes sense, thank you. Yeah.
You're okay? Keep going?
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. Okay, number 8, A 1630-405, community center repairs, $5,000 for a chairlift.
Where's the chairlift going?
Community center,
It's going-
it's gonna go up, it's going up the stairs, I believe, right? It's not gonna be exterior.
He said the back of the
I think you
building.
said the back of the building. I'm not sure what that means.
Or the back stairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go in on the back stairs where the kitchen is,
Yep,
the stairs go straight up. If you go in the front entrance, you go up and there's a landing, and then there's a 90-degree turn and go the other way.
okay.
So if you're going on the inside with a chairlift, the easiest way to go up there, And because it's not handicap accessible, a lot of the events can't be held on the second floor. Because of that, you can't do plays up there and for the general public. You can't do a lot of things up there for the general public because you don't have the handicap accessible chair.
Mhm. My understanding is chairlifts are not legal in commercial buildings at all. I looked into it in my building downtown. I'm not sure that's legal for us to put in for the community center. I think those are residential only.
You
Well,
might
that's
want
something
to,
to- go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you might want to just ask Pat what he meant by that. Maybe he's calling it a chairlift and it's really something different.
How much is it?
He's got $5,000 in there.
It's not going to be, I don't think that's going to be allowed in a commercial structure.
So the good news is that we still have time, and the good news is that he'll be here tomorrow if you want to do the email.
I'll send Pat an email about chairlift, because I
Yes,
don't,
yes, please. That's what this whole service, this exercise is about, is basically fleshing out questions, send them, include all the board members on it, and also the people in the office of supervisor. Do you want me to include on the email also, Debbie, or not?
Sure.
Okay, so it's out there. Probably Mikey too, if it involves him.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll send it to everybody.
Well, I don't really care about the chairlift, but I would probably reach out to codes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's not going to be allowed.
And I can't tell you.
Well,
Because they're just not, they're not going to be good for the general public wear and tear that you do in a private home that's okay.
Okay, well, I think we have an idea what to do here, so let's move on then. Number 9, A3510.410R, enumeration year for the clerk's office was paid out a dog control reserve.
What is that exact? I'm not sure I understand,
The dog control reserve?
I'll let you do.
but, okay.
I know there's like $20,000 there that honestly, I'm not sure anybody knows when it was put there, how it got there, or whatever, and it's sitting there, and it's like, we should just, instead of paying for my dog enumeration, you know, saying here's this, every 5 years, we typically do a dog enumeration, so instead of, which is covered by the additional dog fees we get in from doing the dog enumeration. So it's not really, it's, the expense is not a problem, it's totally covered, but I guess you guys decided to take it out of this reserve fund, because it's, this reserve fund is sitting there and never being used, it's kind of.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
we
not-
didn't
kind of
decide,
pointless.
it's the, per ag and markets law. If you take in additional revenue over any of your dog costs, you must put that additional revenue in that reserve, and then you must use those reserve funds to pay for an enumeration.
Okay.
So.
Oh, and that's all it can be used for, is just for enumeration?
I gave you guys the law. and
Yeah, I didn't read it, I'll
It's
be
all
honest.
legalese, but it's very clear that you must pay for the enumeration out of it. So
Okay.
that's why we moved it there. It has to be done that way.
It's like it's self-funding, right? I mean, it's going to self-fund
Yeah,
itself.
it's just
because
gonna
then
go
you're
around and
re-register all
around,
your
yeah.
dogs and everything else.
So
Yeah, and then we're gonna get more money in for the dogs, and we'll put
gotta put it
it
back.
back in the
Yeah.
reserves.
And that's how that fund is built
Started
up,
out,
is
oh.
at the end of every year, because the dog fees, the dog laws are very clear that if you bring in money for dog fees, you can only use it for dog services.
Yeah, I
So
knew that part.
when, at the end of the year, if you've taken in more fees than you needed to pay out for control services, then that overage goes into the reserve. And that's how that's built up.
So where's the reserve on the supervisor's report? Because I don't see it.
It's in the A fund.
It's not a town of Lansing established reserve. So it would be on like your accounting paperwork on your trial balance. It's more of a
So it's in
state
that
mandated provision.
Well, I used to see it regularly and ask about it, and I don't see it anymore. I don't remember where I used to see it. So it's in this under cash, is where you're saying it is? It's like $20,000 is my understanding.
Yes, I think it is something like
Yeah.
20,000.
Where is it?
Right?
Yeah,
It's not-
it would be part of that balance.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
part of the
cash
A
balance.
cash, but it's not a real reserve, it's a different kind of reserve?
It's not a reserve, like the reserves that you see on the supervisor's report are reserves that were established by the town, and they're town-specific. This is a state mandated reserve that every town must have.
Okay.
So it's
And
like,
so,
I
am I
think
gonna
I've
see
seen
it
it
on
on the
this?
AUD report, haven't I?
Mike,
I think it would probably
Okay.
show up on there, yeah.
Mike, I
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
here?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So how would you spend money off of it if it's not a separate reserve here?
What's in an account, right?
So it should be on one of these count numbers here.
It is.
Hang on.
Oh, it only shows up here if we actually use it, is the issue. I'm trying to figure out where I used to see it, because I've seen it before on some report.
I was there for a while, I was in the supervisor's report for a while.
It was? Okay.
I think it was at one time.
I remember seeing it when I was doing all that analysis
Maybe
last
before you were
year.
here, Ruth. I remember Joe bringing that up about where's this money, and, you know, it's like, okay.
It's on this spreadsheet here, if that's what you're looking for.
Okay, what page?
I don't know, 2,
2. I can find that.
under about 3/4 of the way down. Just looked for that number, 835, 10.410R, control of dogs.
So the
That's not
IRS
the
is
reserve itself, that's just.
Yeah, that's where you'll spend it on.
6,300
It's coming out.
coming out. But to Joe's point, I don't know where's his mouth.
Oh, where's the amount of the
Where's the total
20,000?
amount?
Yeah, we're looking for it in the supervisor's report.
It won't show up on this because we're not spending the total amount.
Right.
We're only seeing what we spend.
Right.
So why are we spending 6,300 out of that reserve?
To pay for dog enumeration.
Just for the enumeration?
Mhm.
We can't do it for the general animal control stuff?
I think we looked into that and decided we couldn't.
I don't,
think
that
a
would,
lot-
that would be a Guy question, because I'm not confident in reading ag and markets law. It would be a good question for Guy.
Because if we can't, then what I see happening is eventually, that's going to be, 100 grand because we can't spend it as quickly as we take it in.
We can certainly reach out to Guy.
I mean, I want to keep the balance there, so that it's coming in at the same rate we're spending it, because there's no point in charging people for something we can't use.
Sure. You can ask Guy.
Okay.
Do you want us to ask him, or do you want to ask?
You've got the law set aside, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I would like that.
It doesn't really seem to go up much every year. It doesn't seem to, from when you guys were showing me, it didn't seem like it fluctuated much, so.
Well, it should go down and then build back up and go down and build back up. That's how a reserve fund should be operating.
Right, but the only time really that
You
it's
use it
gonna
every
really
5
go
years.
down is for this enumeration next year. And I haven't seen in the last several years where it's really gone down really hardly at
Okay,
all.
well, let's figure out how we can, make sure that it does the loop up and down.
Did I hear you say the enumeration only gets done every 5 years? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Number 10, A 4989-400, Public Health Other, PPE. This is the new code for PPE supplies the town has already been purchasing, but that has been coming out of the highway budget. I think this is more of an accounting change than most anything else.
Mhm. Yeah.
Item 11, A 6772-440, Lansing Food Pantry, requesting an additional donation of $5,000.
We don't do donations as a town. We pay for services that are used by
I'm
the
sorry,
whole.
it should say contribution.
Should say what?
It should say contribution.
Yeah.
And we should have something that says what we're getting in exchange for that contribution. Which, is, a certain number of people in the town will be serviced, something like that, so that we're not,
They did send a letter. We got it today.
okay, can I get a copy of that letter, please?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that we're actually doing this the proper way.
Yep.
It said in the letter, it said that there's, I think it was in January, they had helped 200 people with food, and in September, they helped almost double that amount, 360 or something like that with food.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they're saying it's Lansing residents that are getting help, because that's what we have to do, is we have to do things for our residents.
Well, it's the Lansing Food Pantry.
Well, I don't know, Johnny, I assume if someone came in from Enfield and said, I need help, the Lansing Food Pantry would help them, I don't know.
So let me give you some background here. When I used to work at the food pantry, at least back then, they used to have qualifications. You had to have an address and where you were in Lansing.
Okay,
Every once in a while, they would have a they would have a different surplus come in, and that could be open to the general public.
Okay,
And that's how the Southern Tier Food Bank did it. They worked through them, and that would be advertised and established, and anybody could come out and get X amount.
mhm,
The way they do it is that when you go in there, it used to be a whole bunch of different tables, and you would get a number, like 3. Get 3 servings, and then you have different stations. You can get 3 servings of starch, it could be potatoes, it could be whatever, right? You have 3 servings of vegetables, 3 servings of whatever, of bread, and that's how you did it, they went around through. So there is a way that they organize this, and they control that, so if somebody comes from, God forbid, Newfield,
mhm.
and that needs help, and this may have changed, but they could not service them for that service they were providing at the time for the Lansing Food Pantry.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have a document in our records that says they're servicing Lansing residents with this money, so that we can defend giving money to them, to the state. Because we can't do donations, we can't pick charities, but we can purchase services for our taxpayers.
They dropped the letter off today.
Yeah, I just want to see it and make sure that, I
Yep.
feel that it actually says that. Thank you.
Yep.
Number 12, A 7510.400 and A 7520.400. Fannie Welsh has a couple of small projects at the log cabin and archive building.
Archive building's the one between us and the community center?
Right here.
It's the
Yeah.
historical building.
Yeah, okay.
Number 13, A 745-401, contractual equipment rental. This is dredging work to be done on Salmon Creek. Mike will rent the equipment to get the job done.
This is where we pile up a mountain in
Salt.
Salt Point and then
For
Cargill.
water. Yeah, we plan on doing swimming area too.
That is new this year. That is something that the DEC has approved, they've been trying for years. That's huge.
Copy the permit now. TG Miller's working on the other copy, so honestly, we hope to have a 10-year permit and then run the cycle within the creek. I mean, it serves the taxpayers well. I mean, when we do that, 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, and we're almost gone with our cert route, so you don't have to buy it.
So the dynamics are that you try to get a 3-year permit, depending on when you try to get at the lowest level.
Mhm.
And sometimes we are fortunate and can jump on it. There are other times when there is either a February thaw or there's a rain and the levels raise up and then you have to abort. And once you're in there, you're in there. So once you commit, you're committed to the 20-some thousand for rental and the 2,000 change for the labor. And that's where you see, I mean, if anybody's seen this before, it is a mountain. It is a little mountain.
Oh, it's huge.
It's impressive. And then that's used for other stuff for the town.
So how much,
Yeah.
so how much would that gravel cost if we went to buy it, roughly, ballpark?
I don't know, $650 a ton, fly by
100?
100,000 ton, I don't know. I mean, that supplies the town for 340 years.
I mean, how many trucks loads there, right? 650 a ton, how many you get to it?
I mean, it took
It's
us,
huge.
our 8 10-wheelers, 9 10-wheelers, and then the county put their trucks on, all on down this road and spread. So time frame, honestly, is Mother Nature works with us. We'll be in there, say, end of February, and second or third week of March, be out hopefully. Once it gets dewatered, then we can move it.
So in the perfect world, you'd love to take the mouth and be able to take that out also, because what happens is that you dredge this down, and here comes the rain, and here comes the wall of water, and it slams right into that, almost like what do you want to say, like not a levee, but a wall of dirt, and it stops, it slows it right down, and it settles right back down.
I asked, I was told no. I had a meeting down there.
Keep asking.
We-
Eventually,
we
you're
wanted
in.
to go out there, so
Keep
that's
asking.
okay.
Okay.
Go about the creek and not swimming area.
Moving on, 14. A 8810.400, cemeteries contractual. This budget line has doubled to account for the flags. The town flags costing around $700. 15. A1120, $20,000 represents 70% of the sales tax revenue projections. $16, tentative A fund budget projects adding $119,317 back to the fund balance. I'd like to take a moment, if we can, print out those things now. Just take like a 5-minute break so you can print out these things for them.
Those? Sure.
Because we start talking
Yeah.
about fund balance increases, if that's okay, then you'll have it in front of them, might make a little clearer projection what's going on.
Mhm.
So,
Can do that.
Wait, this is saying 119 with 112 on here.
Let's see.
I'm looking for you. Which
I
one are
would
you
put
looking
the
at?
fund balance.
Pardon me?
19 back in, oh.
Are we talking about the appropriated fund balance?
No, we're talking about an increase in fund balance back to build it up.
So
It shouldn't be
it-
appropriated
yeah.
fund balance if we're building it back up.
So.
Right,
the-
that's-
No, it is appropriated from the B fund into the A fund, okay, to balance the budget. This is as an
Hang on.
appropriated, this is where
It
the
is
appropriation is different this year,
It's good.
because we're using some of the future sales tax in 2024 going into the A fund and the revenue stream. Consequently, the end result, hopefully, is 119,317 will increase the fund
Yeah.
balance.
I'm just saying 112.
So it should be the 112. This, the highlight, we
get
were
updated
trying to
after we made the
update this, the
adjustments.
highlights in the
Yeah.
program all at once.
So line 16 should say 112?
It's
Yeah,
112.
It's the appropriated,
I'm still looking here.
yeah, that one.
You told me to trust her.
More to me, I'm line blind.
112.
Yeah, okay. So it's 112, what? 112,
692.87.
692.
Are you making a change on this page here?
690, rounding up. to
Number
693.
16.
Should be what amount?
112,
As of today.
693.
I'm sorry, what?
112, 693.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this is anticipating that every dollar that they've been allocated to spend this year in their budget gets spent. Which doesn't happen. But we hope everyone,
So we're taking a break for a minute.
please do.
No.
I can turn this off if you want to come back. We'll be right back.